Listen up, if you own an Apple Watch, you need to watch this. Okay, I promise that is the last pun I will use in this video. I've been using the Apple Watch Series 5 for about 4 years now, and although I've never had a reason to switch over to anything newer, I wanted to try out the Ultra series again, and this time for good. And I gotta say, I am so glad that I did. Now, I got an amazing price on the Apple Watch Ultra off of Amazon, which I'm gonna link down in the description below so you can also take advantage of that great offer. But back to what I was saying, I noticed a world of a difference this time around when using the watch compared to previously, and with this new price, that justifies the switch. Now, I'll talk about what I like and what I dislike between the two series so that you can make an informed decision for yourself and figure out which of the series, the Ultra or the regular, is best suited for you. It doesn't really matter which of the two that you pick, if you choose the Ultra or the regular series, as long as you're choosing a newer generation like the Apple Series 5 or newer, or an Apple Watch Ultra Generation 1 or a Generation 2. That way, this review will resonate with you. It'll be more accurate to what you're supposed to expect when you buy any of these watches. Both watches are great, and I like to usually compare it to cars, for example. When you're moving from a sedan to an SUV, both vehicles will get you from A to B, but the experience is a little bit different when you're riding in each one respectively. Not to say that one or the other is bad, it's just different. Even though this is the 44mm, which is Apple's biggest offering for the regular series, it still didn't look quite right and not as proportional to my wrist. So you can imagine my excitement when I moved over to the Apple Watch Ultra, which is a lot more proportional and the screen is a lot bigger. I also have a lot more screen real estate when I'm touching anywhere on the screen, and it's easier to actually hit buttons. So that's a plus. If you have fat fingers like myself, you'll probably want the Apple Watch Ultra. If you have a smaller wrist, you might want to consider sticking with the regular series, as this one might be too big.
That's what she...
Yeah, we're not doing that in this video. Let's keep it PG. Oh yeah, and before I forget, another thing that I should mention is that the Apple Watch Ultra has a brightness of 3000 nits compared to the Apple Watch regular series. This is the Series 5, which has 1000 nits, and that difference is very evident when you're going outside. If the sun is hitting the display directly, you will notice it. That being said, again, I've never had any issues when I was using the Apple Watch Series 5 in sunlight. The difference is only noticeable when you compare it to the Ultra. So if you haven't bought the Ultra yet and you're thinking of getting the regular series, you'll be fine. Another huge advantage with the Apple Watch Ultra is battery life. With the Series 5, I had to charge my watch throughout the day, whether I was taking a shower or I was at my desk. I would just keep it on the charger because I knew that it wouldn't last for the full 24 hours. I don't like using battery saver mode either on my watches because I want to use them as they were intended. Workouts would also drain my battery quite quickly, but it wasn't that big of a deal because when I plug it in over the course of my shower or even at my desk, it would juice up pretty quickly. But the problem was I had to plan around that. So if I was going to work out right after work, I had to make sure that my watch was charged completely before I could use it. However, my habits have changed because after moving to the Apple Watch Ultra, I feel like I don't have to charge it as often and I can go for a good 2 days without having to worry about it. I really only need to charge it every other day, and that's with heavy usage. Now, I do prefer having a bigger window to decide when I want to charge my watch, but the disadvantage here is that the battery is a little bit bigger, so it takes longer to charge. A quick 30-minute charge will juice you up to the point where you'll have power for at least another 6 to 10 hours. One of the things I did envy about the Apple Watch Ultra was the action button. After using it for some time now, I don't think I can use an Apple Watch moving forward that doesn't have this button. It's quite easy to quickly jump into a workout or set it to anything that you prefer so you don't have to fumble around in the menu for it. A lot of the other features that are exclusive to the newer Apple Watches like blood oxygen levels or the siren are features that I don't really care for or really use that often. And if you're like me, then that probably shouldn't be a deciding factor when you're thinking of upgrading. One thing I will mention that wasn't the greatest experience when changing over to the Apple Watch Ultra was sleep tracking. I found it much easier to do with my Apple Watch Series 5 because the bezels were smoother, it was lighter, and it just wasn't a hazard when I was in bed. My wife can actually attest to all of the bruises that my Apple Watch Ultra has given her since getting it, as my hand tends to move around a bit at night and ends up bumping into her, and those sharp edges can really hurt. Trust her, she's told me. But even for myself, it does feel a little bit more cumbersome and noticeable when I'm sleeping. The edges are a bit sharper because of the flat display, and that might be a bad thing because over time it could scratch the display, or if you're accidentally knocking it against a desk or something, it feels like it could damage that object as well. At the end of the day, you can't ask for a bigger display and a bigger battery and expect no trade-off. That's just not the way it works, so keep that in mind. If you prefer the design of the regular series, you can always go to a Series 8 or a Series 9 so that you get that slightly better battery, not as good as the Apple Watch Ultra, but better, and then also the faster performance so that you don't see any lag, and that way you can keep up with the Apple Watch Ultra. It is still a great lineup for those who are looking for something that's not so expensive, but also want to keep that classic Apple Watch design. If you prefer the rounded bezels and that's like a huge factor to you, then this is the one to go with. Those are my quick thoughts on the Apple Watch Series 5 and moving over to the Apple Watch Ultra. It's a big step up and the difference is actually noticeable. Now that the price has come down a bit, I do think it is worth it if you are planning on going to the Apple Watch Ultra at some point. Because I use an Apple Watch every day, I do think that the money I put down on this goes a long way. So I want something that has an enjoyable experience day in and day out. Which Apple Watch are you rocking? And if you don't have one, which one are you thinking of getting? Let me know down in the comments below because I love to keep this conversation going. My name is J.I. Thank you for watching and thank you for kicking it with me.